Engage Vernon.
I'm your new wingman.
We will win. Because we have.
Welcome to CommLink.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CommLink Podcast, where we talk Star Citizen and Squadron 42. I'm Stubb, and as always, I'm joined by the one, the only, Silvius. How's it going, man?
On the first take, you didn't introduce me all crazy like that, so I wasn't ready. But what's up, man?
Yeah, we had a little power flicker. This is take 2, but we were only like a couple minutes into the episode. We didn't really even dive into any topics yet, so the conversation will still be nice and fresh for the episode. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into this one, man. We've got 323 to talk about today. We've got Invictus launch week to talk about today, as well as some 4.0 news. So, and some listener comments here at the end of the episode.
Haven't had an episode in a few weeks, just due to not having a lot to talk about other than 323 features, which I feel like we beat into the ground, just talking about them every week. So now we have some hands-on with 323. Yeah. Invictus has happened. 4.0 got announced. Like there's a ton of stuff going on. So got a decent amount of stuff to cover today.
Yes, we do. And with that said, do you want to just dive right into 323 going live?
Yeah. So it went live last week as of recording.
Yes. Yeah.
Now the 0.1 patch is out with Invictus, so we've got that going on. But overall, I'm feeling okay about the patch. It's changed a lot of stuff.
Yeah, huge update for the game.
Yeah, I guess we could, break it down a little bit by different features. You want to do that?
Sure. Yeah. Sounds good to me.
So let's talk master modes. I guess that's a big one. Okay. I'm feeling okay with it. I didn't put a lot of combat time in with master modes. I did it like up to an MRT, which were still doable in a Gladius. But I've, heard other people saying like sometimes even for a like low risk target, they'll have like 3 or 4 ships like size of a Starfarer or something. So must be something a little weird going on there. But overall with like the switching between modes and stuff and like how it feels, it's obviously a little arcadey because one thing I've been doing is when like coming up to a station or I did some salvaging. Right. So like before when I was flying the Vulture, for example, it would take forever if you were up at full speed and tried to flip and do a burn to stop or something. It would still take a pretty good while to stop. But now I'm cruising in there, going full speed, flip on SCM, throw the landing gear down, and I just come to a stop right there at the salvage. So, I mean, it's a little cheesy, but it's very convenient.
Yeah, no, it functions like a space emergency brake.
Yeah. So like I've barely even been using my space brake this patch.
Yeah. Because it does it for you essentially.
Yeah. I just flip it into SCM and it slows down so much. And then you can lower the landing gear if you need to slow down even further. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking of was the landing gears, like really like the emergency brake, because even if you're going full throttle, but your landing gear is down, like you're barely moving.
Yeah.
Like it's nice and slow, which makes for really smooth landings. Like I appreciate that, but yeah, we can also sort of gamify it a bit and it can save you from crashing into an asteroid or into a station or into the ground, whatever it is.
Yeah. The switching between modes and learning, because you have SCM and nav, and then you have like 3 different modes within those. So that could be a little confusing for new people, but the overall flight model feels definitely probably like it's easier to use for new people. As far as like slowing down and, not crashing and stuff like that once they figure out the different modes and everything. But, I'm okay with it. Master modes definitely needs some tuning as far as like combat and stuff goes, but, I mean, we talk about it wanting to be a sim, we want it to be realistic, but if we were in a sim realistic with, Newtonian physics we would be shooting at each other like kilometers away with missiles and like never even see each other. So the fact that we're even like in this World War II like dogfighting scenario in the first place is already not realistic, you know? So it's
Star Wars.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a game. It's, you know, it's got to be gamified a little bit somewhere. So I'm okay with it for now. They definitely need to tweak it, but I'm not up in arms about it like some people are.
Yeah, I want to go back a little bit to the various modes within master modes. So as you mentioned, there's SEM, which is your combat mode, right? That's where you have weapons available to you, you got your shields available to you, and you're flying at reduced speeds. And then you got nav mode, which is no shields, but you got full speed, also no weapons. And then you mentioned the various modes within. They take a little getting used to it, at least in my experience, but I don't think it's beyond your average person's ability to get used to it pretty quickly. So for anyone that's not tried it yet, and for my fellow mouse and keyboard warriors out there, you're holding B to switch between SEM and nav mode, and then you're hitting by default your middle mouse button to go through the various sort of, I guess we could call them sub modes, whether it's flight mode, scan mode, that sort of thing. And that took me a little getting used to, but not much. I feel like after spending just a few minutes with it, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, this is how things work now. Like it's not anything crazy complicated to me, Summit. But overall, I like how it feels in the PU. I've not really had a whole lot of combat time in the PU with it, but I did dive into some Arena Commander with master modes, and I'm having a brain fart on what the actual game type is called, but it's the deathmatch mode where you and a bunch of other pilots are all in the map and you're shooting and killing each other. And I had played a little bit of that prior to 323 going live, but not much, because master modes was cooking on Arena Commander for a while, even before 323 was available in 322. It felt okay. It felt okay. I know people still have some issues with the 1v1 fights, but when you're playing in that mode, there's times where you're fighting 2, 3, 4, 5 different guys at once. So pretty pleasant experience there. I wasn't doing great. I'm not an ace pilot by any means, but I feel like with master modes, and I think I've said this before on the show, I'm able to keep up better than I was in the previous 322 flight model and prior to that. Again, I feel for the hardcore PvPers and their skill ceiling being lowered, but like you said, they're going to keep tuning stuff. They're going to keep adjusting things as time goes on. So hopefully they'll find a way to, both keep the master modes accessible to newcomers and sort of novice pilots, but then also raise that ceiling a little bit more for your more hardcore PvP space combat crowd. So I'm hoping at some point we'll get the best of both worlds. 323 just hit live servers, so it's brand new to the game in that sense. So give them time to cook, and hopefully we'll be able to find a nice balance that will make as many people as possible happy, right? Like, you're never going to make everybody happy. That's impossible. But as long as the highest percentage of the player base can feel engaged with the game and enjoy the game, I think we can get there. And I think that'll be an overall win for Star Citizen.
Well, since you mentioned Summit, that's been an interesting thing to watch the past couple of weeks since last we recorded. So Summit 1G, for anybody who doesn't know, big Twitch content creator, has been playing Star Citizen here recently, and a lot. Yeah. He his average viewer count is normally like 2 or 3 times the amount that the whole Star Citizen Twitch like area usually collects as a whole.
Yeah, like any given time when I see he's live, it's like 10K plus people watching.
Yeah. So the reason I brought him up is he's a fairly new player. Like, he played 322 a little bit before 323 went live. But my dude Summit is a gamer, right? He games, 16 hours a day sometimes. And I've been watching him some, and I've seen him struggling try to figure stuff out. So if Summit, who religiously for a job professionally plays games, has a hard time figuring this stuff out, I do wonder how like people jumping into Free Fly that have never even launched the game before, how are they, going through this process of learning master modes and all the new stuff, and are they struggling as much as Summit did? So I'm, it, like we said, it feels like the flight is a little easier to control, but grasping all the like modes and switches and when to use them and stuff might be a little confusing to new people. So, they have that tutorial in Area 18 that covers like 1% of the game. So maybe they'll beef it up a little bit at some point to kind of take you through flight and stuff. But, if you're a new player or someone new to Star Citizen listening to our show and, you're having trouble with it, there's some good guides out there. So just, search YouTube. There's definitely some good content creators out there that.
Shout out to Berks.
Yeah.
Berks has an excellent new guide.
Yeah. So, we could even, I'll even throw it in the description down below if you guys, want to check
Berks
it out.
Good people. Yeah.
So, if you're new, I know Free Fly is going on right now. So if you're coming in new to the game, definitely check out some new player guides, before just jumping in feet first, because it'll save you a lot of headache.
Yeah, I mean, that's like you just referenced. There is that new player experience tutorial or whatever in the game, but it's fairly bare bones. That is something that I also hope will be, continue to be fleshed out as development goes on, that they'll add more and more to that. I think that's going to be just a matter of time sort of thing. But yeah, in the meantime, like you said, lots of good community guides out there. And for the most part, there's some bad seeds in every crowd, but for the most part, server chat can be very helpful too. I see a ton of people willing to give tips and tricks. So, feel free to reach out to other players as well. On the whole, the community is pretty helpful.
Yep. So as far as other 323 features go, we have, Star Map, EVA. I'm feeling pretty good about those.
Let's talk about those a little bit. Specifically the Star Map first. It looks gorgeous. The ability to type in and search for locations is so welcome in my mind. Just being able to, say you're at New Babbage or whatever, and you're leaving Atmosphere, just being able to type in Port Tresler or whatever, and instead of struggling with the old map and trying to get it to pop up so that you can click on it and hoping that when you hit the set route button, it actually sets the route. Now there's that drop down menu. I can just type in Port Tresler. There's a route setting button right there. So far, double fingers crossed. So far, I've not had an issue with setting a route in 323. Like it's worked every time, which is so nice.
Yeah.
People that have been around the game, that struggle with setting routes. It's broken half the time, it feels like. But so far, so good. Not saying the new Star Map is perfect by any means. There's still like some visual issues. And in fact, our buddy Matt, after you got off Discord, he was checking things out a little bit on 323, and he even noted like Hurston is still only like halfway showing up for him. So there's still some weird stuff around the edges, but overall, thank God for this new Star Map. Oh, thank you, Papa Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, it feels like to me, it feels like a facelift of the old map a little bit. For the most part, that search function has made it way easier to use.
Yes.
But like I was salvaging the other day, and I tried to jump to a Lagrange point and the station. I jumped to like Mikel 1, and then I tried to open my map and zoom in and click on the station and set a route to the station. But even if I searched it, then like if I clicked on it and I moved my mouse like down towards the set route button,
Yeah.
there's all these mining claims also around the Lagrange point. And if my cursor just like barely bumped over one of those, it would try and change what I'm trying to set my route to one of those.
Okay.
And then like sometimes you'll get stuck in the search bar, trying to set a route and stuff. So there's
I've not had that yet, but you've spent more time with it than I have.
So there's some little, bugs still here and there, but as far as like new versus old star map, it is way better. And I'm sure they'll keep working on it here and there.
Definitely a step in the right direction.
Oh yeah.
Albeit not perfect. And then aside from the star map, we should talk a little bit about, we've got a mini map in game now. Can you believe it, fellas? We've got a mini map.
Yeah, that was we'll get to Invictus a little bit here in a little while, but I checked out the Idris tour, and just being able to set a route inside the Idris to find my way around was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And and one thing that I didn't realize, so you were doing the Idris tour and we were all on the Discord channel, and I was watching you stream it in Discord. And you can set on foot routes now.
Mm-hmm.
I was unaware of that feature before seeing you do that. In fact, I had just commented like, yeah, it'd be cool if one day we can do some on foot waypoints, and then you did it.
Yeah, I think it works.
That was really cool to see.
I think it works at any like major landing zone, like cities, space stations, might even work at like distribution centers. But I think it doesn't work through transit right now. So if you're trying to go from like the commons to the spaceport, I don't think it'll route you through the train or whatever. But yeah, as far as like anywhere you can access on foot through elevators or whatever, I think it works pretty well.
Yeah, it was really cool to see that was in there. And maybe they mentioned that at SitCon or something. If they did, I either missed it or forgot about it. But that was a happy moment for me seeing that actually in the game.
Yep. And I'm sure it's not working right now, but they're bringing in like markers you can set on planets and in space that will stay there, and you can kind of jump to them. Like if you're leaving your base ship, like your Carrack, up in orbit and then want to fly down or whatever, you can leave a marker there to get back to it. Stuff like that. I think it's still in the works.
Okay. Right on. Another thing too that you mentioned for 323, another one of the I think one of the more significant updates is the new EVA flight model.
Yep. Love it. It's great.
Yes.
No notes.
Yeah. I mean, that's
awesome.
That's basically it, right? I mean, anybody who experienced the old EVA flight model, we have all had moments where, say you're out in the vacuum of space and you're heading back into your ship, and your character's flip-flopping all around on the ramp trying to get back in, and it's all super janky. And yeah, it's funny the first few times, but then it's just straight up annoying after that. Like, why does this keep happening? I have not had that happen once with the new EVA flight model. It is so smooth, and being able to reliably stick your landing is such a welcome change. It's one of those quality of life updates that was much needed, and I'm happy that it was ready to go and made the cut for 323. It feels so nice, whether that's in PU, whether it's in some of the Arena Commander FPS maps. Like, it has been functioning super well for me so far, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, it is a little funny when you see somebody like landing on a surface, like face, like they're coming Superman in, like kind of face first at an angle, and then all of a sudden their body like just flips up to their feet and lands. It's a little weird to watch sometimes, but I would rather have that than falling on my face 90% of the time.
Like, gameplay wise, mechanically, like it feels so good to do.
Yep.
Yeah. So they can tidy up the animation of it hopefully over time. But oh, what a huge night and day difference between new EVA versus old EVA.
Oh yeah.
I just mentioned FPS. You want to talk FPS?
Yeah, that's basically the last big 323 thing I feel worth talking about is some of the new FPS changes.
Yeah.
You've put a lot more time into Arena Commander than I have this patch. I think I played like a round or two.
Yeah.
But overall, like, you know, as the little bit I've done in bunkers and stuff, like the scopes look better. You know, guns feel, the few that I've used feel pretty good. And there's, you know, Sniper Glint now.
Let's save Sniper Glint for last. I want to talk FPS a little bit more generally first, right?
Yeah.
So I've not kept it any secret. I am more of a FPS player than I am a combat pilot. I enjoy both PvE and PvP, and I've really wanted to dive into the new FPS components and start system because they change a lot. And I'll say this, overall, I am satisfied with the direction that the FPS changes are going in the game. For example, I love the ammo repulling. That is such a welcome change. It's been awesome to do. Very useful, very handy. I feel like it's a good balance of time to execute. It's not instant, but it also doesn't take forever at the same time. So, if you're behind a little bit of cover or whatever, give it a couple seconds and boom, you're ready to go again. That's been fantastic. The ability to pull mags out of your backpack, again, at a little bit of a slower rate than if you were pulling a mag off of your armor. That has been awesome to be able to do. So the ammo reloading changes I'm here for. And like you said, I've been spending quite a bit of time in Arena Commander, way more time in Arena Commander in 323 than I have in the PU, because I just wanted to dive right into the FPS stuff. I've been doing, what is it? It's not Gun Rush, some other mode.
Skull Collector.
Kill Collector.
Yeah.
That. And let me just say this about Kill Collector right off the bat. I like the mode. I do have a request for a change, though. So I forget the time limit. It's like 10 minutes or something like that on each round. And I have not seen anywhere in the menus, anywhere on the scoreboard, that there is a score limit that gets hit. But it turns out that there is one. So the way Kill Collector works is for each kill, you get 25 points. And then if you can pick up the sort of like holographic skull that is there left by the dead player, you get an additional 500 points. And it turns out the way the mode works is the first to 12,000 points wins. Again, that's unadvertised. So I have had matches where you can play the full 10 minutes or whatever because nobody hit the 12K limit. But it's not fun when there's like, okay, you look up and you see the amount of time left and I got 4 minutes left in this match. I'm going to get to have some more fun and shoot some more people and have more engagements. And then it just kind of suddenly stops because somebody hit the 12K. I feel like either that score limit needs to be raised and advertised, or just let people, what I would prefer, let people play to time. And then whoever has the most points wins. Whether that's 12,000 points, 20,000 points, 50,000, whatever. Let people play the full amount of time. That's what we're here for, right? We're here to shoot each other. And you just feel like you're even when you win, I've won the bulk of my matches and I still feel like I'm robbed of additional fun just because I hit this arbitrary score limit that's not advertised. You know what I mean? I'm looking up, oh, I got 4 minutes left. Okay, a little bit more fun. And it's done. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would like to see that change. But that's a fairly minor thing. I want to talk, I guess, a bit more specifically about the way it feels to play right now. So I've tested a lot of different weapons, and for the most part, they feel pretty good. I find myself actually still kind of using the old trusty P4 the most. It got that ammo capacity increase from 30 rounds in the mag to 40.
Right.
And the recoil changes and all that good stuff. I have really been enjoying using the 1X reflex and the silencer or the suppressor. on the P4. I think that's a really good filling build for that gun at the moment. Also, shout out to the P8 SMG. That gun feels super smooth right now at the moment. The C54 SMG plays like butter. Like, I've not been using it the most, but when I have used it, oh my God, that SMG is so good right now. The Lumen, this might just be like a playstyle preference. I'm not in love with how the Lumen feels right now. You know, it's got a weird like burst mode to it. You can't change it to full auto. I've used it a little bit. It feels kind of weak overall. I've died to it a good bit, but I've noticed that the players that are killing me with that, usually they're killing me when I'm already wounded from a prior engagement and haven't had the time to heal back up to full health. So maybe that thing needs a little bit more love with it having that burst mode. I feel like the DPS might need to be increased a little bit more with it. But the recoil on the Lumen also feels pretty good. The poor Custodian SMG, that poor thing. It's got a 60 round mag, so plenty of shots, but at least in my experience, it feels like you're shooting space BBs. The amount of rounds that it takes to put into a player, even though you do have that larger mag, it just doesn't feel super viable compared to your other options. I'd also like to give a shout out to the S71 rifle. That thing feels really good, you know, semi-automatic or whatever. So you're firing one shot at a time, but you can click right away with that thing. It's doing good DPS. It feels pretty well rounded. I've been enjoying that. I've messed around even with snipers a little bit in Arena Commander, not with the scope, but just either using iron sights or putting on a reflex or whatever. They also feel pretty good. I've used the P6, and there's one other that I'm blanking on. I've not used every single one of them, but there was another ballistic one that I used. God, what is that thing called? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Snipers feel okay. Shotguns. I think maybe shotguns need a little bit more love. That could be a skill issue on my part because I've not used shotguns a ton in Star Citizen, so maybe I need to get used to them a bit more, but they, on the whole, feel pretty underpowered, and that's sort of a common complaint that I have with shotguns in games, in most games in general, is they kind of feel a little underpowered at any range further than like 10 meters away, and for anybody that's used a shotgun in real life, that ain't how they work in real life, right? People literally hunt with shotguns, right? And they're not hunting from 10 meters away. So, you know, I know that they shouldn't feel like a sniper rifle, but can we maybe increase the range effectiveness of a shotty just a little bit? That would be kind of nice.
I've seen people using shotguns in like distribution centers, like the B12. I could be wrong on the name of that.
I think that's that double shotgun. It's got 16 rounds to it, I believe.
Yeah, but either way, I've seen people using pretty effectively against at least PvE targets.
Okay. I've not used it in PvE.
Yeah, I've seen them like dropping like NPCs with like one shot to the chest at fairly close range. But yeah, I would definitely be interested to test those out a little bit more because they did kind of talk about how they've reworked a lot of the shotguns and stuff.
Yeah, maybe I just need to spend more time with them and try it in that PvE environment more. Shout out to the arc light. Oh my God, that pistol slaps now. It's got a 3-round burst to it. It feels super smooth to shoot. There is some recoil to it, but it feels pretty well balanced, both up close and at mid range. I'm doing a good deal of damage with that. It's been a great sort of backup secondary. Sidearm, if I'm going in with my P4 and I miss too many shots with the P4, so I'm not able to quite get the target down. If I'm able to quickly switch to that arc light, it gets the job done. That thing feels so good right now. I spent a little bit of time with also the LH 2838, whatever the number is after the LH. I've been enjoying that as well. Also the Coda. I'm kind of a revolver guy, and that's sort of our space revolver. I'm enjoying that thing more than I was previously in 322 and back. It's still not quite my go-to secondary. I'm still sort of favoring that arc light. But I do want to spend more time with Dakota because what I have played with it, I have enjoyed. And yeah, that's really about it for the weapons. Now when it comes to mechanics, when it comes to reliability of things working, I streamed yesterday and the VOD is up. If you want to go back and check it out, I only made it a little over into an hour before I fucking rage quit. Again, winning most of my rounds and still not feeling like it was as much a battle against other players as a battle against the game. And so some specific examples, right? Desync, still an issue. Desync is still a problem. It's not as horrendous as it has been in the past, but it is still pretty annoying. And I'm catching that on almost every single server I'm playing on with a ping in the 20s or 30s is what I'm typically averaging. And people are sort of teleporting around. There's also a weird bug going on. I've noticed with somebody that's freshly spawned, their player model is spinning in 360, quite a few times. That's pretty odd as well, and it makes target acquisition pretty difficult in conjunction with the desync that is also happening.
Was that still happening yesterday too?
That was still happening yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was both 322.0 and 322.1.
Okay.
The other thing is, so I was just talking about, swapping to my arc light to finish off a target. Currently, right now, if you are switching a weapon and the animation does not complete, to bringing out your sidearm, right? So if I've got my P4 and now I'm going to swap, I'm trying to bring out the arc light. If it is not completely out, what happens is it will put your sidearm back. You'll bring out your P4 with the empty ass mag again, and it'll go back to the reloading just for hitting the fire button. It cancels out the weapon swap and returns you back to a state of reloading. And that is so fucking annoying. It is enraging when you are in the middle of a firefight and this dude is pushing you. You're trying to get your pistol out. And just because you click a mouse button, because, as soon as your weapon's out, you want to start firing again to finish them off and defend yourself. And you're just not able to. That doesn't feel good, CIG. Please fix that. I don't know if that's a server thing, or I don't know why it would be a server thing, switching your weapon. I would imagine that would be more client side, but again, I'm not a programmer. But regardless, that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, it just seems like there's an animation cancel there with the mouse click that shouldn't be there.
No, should not be there. And then also, highly annoying, you're taking shots, right? You're getting damaged. So you're going to go behind cover real quick. You're going to bring out your med pin, heal yourself back up. No biggie, in theory. What I've encountered is not every time, but oftentimes, after healing yourself back up and then switching back to your weapon out, the weapon just straight up will not shoot. You can click all you want all day long. Your weapon is not firing.
Yeah, that's been a issue in the PU for I don't even know how long at this point. And I had that happen the other day when we were trying the 890.
Yeah.
My gun just wouldn't shoot.
Mm-hmm. And so, that still is persisting on into 323.1, still an issue. Another fun thing that happens sometimes when you pull out your med pin is your character, when you left click to heal yourself, instead of healing up, your character just goes, bye med pin, go to the floor. Why? I don't know. But that happens, and that sucks. And then another issue that I've run into. All right, so let's say you have successfully healed yourself back up and you're going back to your weapon to re-engage in a fight. Sometimes, instead of getting the super fun bug where your gun won't shoot, there's another bug that happens where your gun onto the ground.
Yeah.
It's out of your hands now.
I've seen that happen to people in PU doing distribution centers and stuff.
Oh God, it's so annoying.
Yep.
It's so annoying. And I just ran into those issues so often to the point yesterday. I just said, fuck it, and rage quit.
Yeah.
Again, winning most of the time, but still not having fun because these issues are just, they're so persistent and literally in those moments game breaking because you're not able to play the game correctly because it's you're fighting against the game as often as you're fighting against players.
Yeah.
So as happy as I am overall with how weapon balance feels, it needs some work. Please somebody give that custodian SMG a little bit of love. And between the med pen issues, the weapon swap issues, despite all of that, still overall with the FPS, I'm feeling good about the overall feel when it works. Right?
Yeah.
I think time to kill is still a little wonky. I know they wanted to increase it so people just aren't being immediately melted. But at the same time, I feel like, if I'm putting in body shots into a dude with my P4 at close to mid range, it shouldn't take the majority of the mag to get the job done. And currently that is how it feels, which is fine still with your one-on-one engagements. But what about that third party that's coming right around the corner before you get a time to reload? Now you're left with 17 rounds in the mag. And unless you are just somehow able to get past the desync issues and target acquire their head for a bunch of headshots, you're dead. You're dead. Okay, so you put your 17 rounds into their body, they're still up. Now you're going for your weapon swap to your sidearm, and oh no, that animation's not working. Now your P4 is back out, and you're dead. Like it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. So
I think we talked about it a little bit after you rage quit yesterday that I haven't been in Arena Commander that much, but I have been doing a little bit of FPS in the PU, and I think just the fast paced nature of the Arena Commander modes versus like the slower bunker clearing and distribution center stuff in the PU, you still have those same issues with the animations and the med pen dropping your gun and yada yada. But when you're in Arena Commander and it's happening over and over and over, it's a little harder to stomach than when in the PU when you kill a couple people and then you step back and your gun dropped, but it's just some brain dead NPCs. You can pick it back up, whatever. So it's not that big of a deal. But when you're in this fast paced Arena Commander competitive arena or whatever, it's these problems are just they're right in front of you the whole time. So it's definitely infuriating.
Yeah, because to your point, those issues are just more amplified when every second matters.
Yeah.
So
I feel like
it gets more frustrating.
I feel like that whole spiel you did from the beginning of each weapon to now just needs to be a whole spectrum post about the things they need to fix with the FPS. Yeah.
It's and again, overall, I'm pretty happy with the direction that they're heading into, but yeah, those performance issues persist between the weird animation stuff, the weapon drop stuff, the desync issues. It's just still not feeling great. Like conceptually, I can see where they're going and what they're trying to do, and most of that stuff gets a thumbs up from me, but the actual execution in the game right now just still doesn't feel fantastic. Or even good.
We haven't hit on Sniper Glint yet, but I haven't had an overall 323 thing I wanted to talk about. But first we could dive into Sniper Glint for just a second.
Well, we're already talking FPS. Yeah. We've
beat it into the ground on this show several times and talked about it, how it's not great. So, it's just a bad mechanic overall. I've never played a game that's had Sniper Glint, and I've been like, wow, I'm really glad I could see that sniper with that Sniper Glint. I've never said that in any video game, Call of Duty, Battlefield. I don't even know if Fortnite has Sniper Glint. Whatever you play, I've never enjoyed Sniper Glint. And now in Star Citizen, we have it. And Only other thing I got to say about it is if you want to see it in action, Stubb has a clip from his Twitch. I'll throw it in the description down below if you want to watch it. We did some testing with Sniper Glint, and it's just as bad as I imagined.
Yeah. So, we have maybe bitten into a ground a little bit, but prior on our podcast, it's been more of like conceptually speaking, but now that we've actually had some hands-on experiments with it, we were on Microtech on the night side of the planet. So it was dark out, and I was standing under what'd you have out? Was it the M2? One of the Hercs.
Yeah. And I think we were on Calliope.
Calliope, sorry.
Yeah.
But on the dark side, it was night out. And so I'm standing underneath your ship, and you ended up going like, what was it, like 150 meters, 200 meters away, something like that. And it all started with, I had an S71 out, and I turned on the flashlight. I was just making a quick little goofy joke like, hey, can you see my Sniper Glint? And from there, you had an actual sniper out. And you back off and you start to test it. And we're grouped up, we're partied up in the moment. And you were like, okay, how does mine look? And it seemed like maybe there was like a little bit there, but I was surprised that it wasn't glaring. And I was like, well, maybe if we join if we leave the party, maybe that'll change things. And I even said, and if you go back and you watch that clip, probably not, because I was thinking like, well, if Sniper Glint's in the game, it's going to be in the game whether you're in a party or not.
Yeah.
To my surprise and chagrin, we leave the party and it is worse than a flashlight. It is so bright. It glows so much. This isn't for anybody that still hasn't seen the Sniper Glint. It's like, why are they making such a big deal on Sniper Glint? If you see it in person, it's like a floodlight, like a spotlight coming out of his sniper rifle. It is so bad, so bright, so obvious.
And like when I would get to like 200-ish meters away, the glare from the scope is larger than my player character's body would be from that distance.
Yes, and in that clip, I make the joke of you are a star citizen right now because you are just as bright, if not brighter, than the North Star on a clear night sky. Like it is, you're like the moon, right?
Yeah.
You're like a full moon. It is. Oh, it is rough. It is such an ill-conceived, sloppy attempt at trying to rebalance snipers in the game. It is not the route to take. Like, and anybody, again, if you have not seen it, there's a clip on my Twitch. I also put the sort of the full test that we did up on my Twitter at the THA Real Stubb. It's on there. It's bad. It's just bad.
I'll just link that Twitter post down below in the description. So if you guys want to watch it, just scroll down a little bit.
Yeah, hit that follow button while you're there. But I don't know what else to say other than if they don't completely remove Sniper Glint from the game, if Zach and the rest of the FPS team decide, no, we have to have this in our game, at the very least, it needs to be drastically reduced.
Yeah.
Because you are put at such a disadvantage. It might as well be a god marker.
Yep.
I don't know what else to say other than it sucks.
Yeah, that's my only feedback is it's not good. Reduce it drastically or preferably take it out altogether.
Yeah. Give players other ways to counter snipers. Give them, can we have some sort of visor that maybe has like some infrared or something where you can spot, hey, there's a heat signature out there in them hills. It might be a sniper. Can we do something like that?
That would give, they talk about having different roles between like medical armor or combat armor or trading, whatever they're going to come up with armor. So what if you had like a scout armor? What if you had somebody with a special visor or a backpack that sends out a drone? We're supposed to get drones eventually. What if you have a scout that has a scout drone on his backpack, or a special visor that has thermal vision? He can scout the hills for heat signatures, or like, I don't know. There's just so many other things you could do besides just, oh, here's a bright ass light on somebody that's aiming down their scope. Like, I don't know, man. You know, and even so they won't, that's all pre-fire.
That's right. The tracers.
Warnings. That's all pre-fire warnings. So they could even have, you know, more after shot warnings, you know, tracers, which they already have, plus Sniper Glint.
They're so bright too.
Muzzle flash is pretty low right now. So I would be fine with having a, you know, if the muzzle flash was as bright as the glare or the glint for a second when you shoot, okay, fine. For that, you know, half a second after the muzzle flashes, you see the flash from there. Oh, there's a sniper over that direction, not just constantly while aiming down sight. So, you know, better audio direction from where the shot is coming from. Just so many other options. And it just feels like they're like, oh, here's a non-issue boo-boo of people getting sniped at wherever doing their box delivery missions that wasn't happening. Here's a boo-boo that's not actually a boo-boo, and we're gonna put a shitty ass little band-aid on it and make it even worse. So I digress.
Yeah. The tracer too. Just to give away, I guess, all the humor in the clip or whatever. But like, I even made the joke. It's like, you might as well have a stormtrooper blaster from Star Wars. It's like this bright red laser bolt that's coming out of your ballistic sniper rifle on top of the Sniper Glint.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on before I get any more frustrated with CIG.
All right. So we've talked, I mean, most of the big features in 323, but just overall gameplay feeling wise, my FPS is improved. You know, they have DLSS now. I feel like the game looks a little better overall. I haven't tried Vulkan because there's still some issues with that. But as far as like the game running, it feels smooth. FPS feels good. But man, I've just been banging my head against my desk because everything I've tried, I haven't played the 0.1 patch really, except for checking out the Idris and Invictus floor. But it felt like everything I tried to do in 323.0 was busted. I didn't have the unfortunate thing of flying out of my hangar and exploding like I've seen some people having, but just like I took a investigation mission to a distribution center. I'd spend all this time going in. I find the bodies where it says to search. I search the bodies. Nothing happens. No enemies were showing up. I try an 890 mission. There's enemies clipping through the floor that we can't kill, like into the geometry of the ship. There's missing visual areas in the 890. There's, you know, it's just like all these cool updates, and I want to play the game. And when I go salvage, boxes fall through my cargo grid while I'm in quantum, and just weird shit like that. And it's just like, I want to just play the game, but it's still just like everything you try to do just doesn't work.
Did you mention the weird armistice zone bug?
No, yeah, we had that too. We were, the first time we attempted the 890 mission, we were going to go over there. We were in my M2. We just jumped from like an OM at Crusader. Wasn't even near like a station or anything. Jumped to Microtech. And before we even got to the 890, it says, you're in an armistice zone. We can't fire the weapons on the ship or the turrets or whatever. Just no matter where we went, middle of space. I jumped in between Microtech and Calliope, cut engines, middle of space. I was in an armistice zone, couldn't fire my ship.
Which, for those that haven't done the 890 jump mission before, the big issue with that is like, yes, obviously you're trying to infiltrate the 890 jump and take out the Pirates FPS. But before you get onto the 890, the game will spawn in some enemy ships that you need to do some space combat with. Therein lies the issue. You've got enemy targets and no weapon functionality.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really want to enjoy 323 and Invictus. Granted, I haven't tried the 0.1 patch. There was a lot of bug fixes, so maybe some of that stuff is smoothed out, but it's just like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, I can't play the game. Like, you go to do stuff and it's just broken.
Yeah.
Like, what? I don't know. I hope some of the 0.1 or 0.2, 0.3, whatever patches they get to fixes some of this. And we're going to talk about 4.0 here in just a little bit, but I want to enjoy the game, but sometimes it's really hard when shit just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but you know, it's just
is what it is.
Yeah. Like, I know we're in alpha, you know, this is, you know, par for the course, but you can't even test stuff when it just simply doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we're just putting up with like some desync or, you know, dropping our gun on the ground. Like, literally we cannot finish missions.
Sometimes we can't even start them.
Yeah.
Like, right. Like the most recent time when we did the 890 jump and it just didn't even register that we had arrived.
Yep. So
we were killing people. No credit for it. No mission completion for it.
Yeah. 323's added a lot of good stuff. I'm really happy with, you know, most of the things. But damn, sometimes you just want to play the game and it just fights you every step of the way.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but hopefully over the course of this 323 cycle that we're in, that stuff will get patched up and things will start to form a bit better, function a bit better. But as of right now, as of time of recording, there's plenty of issues, plenty of problems.
And CIG, fix the Inferno. What did you do? Not the Ion, the Ares Ion. What did you do to my ship? Whose idea was that? Charge up the shot, but as soon as it's done charging, it just shoots. You can't even hold the charge. Like, make it overheat a little bit if I'm holding it too long. Eventually I have to let it go or something, but like, I tried to use that in a couple of fights the other day and it was not it.
No. And I was, while you were in your Ion, I was flying in my Banu Defender and just standard default loadout. Comes with 4 of the Singe weapons and kind of similar thing there. Where just the shot timing doesn't feel good. I want a little bit more control over that. And the obvious fix is just need to change the loadout, but still you want the default setting for a fighter to feel at least okay.
With the Ion, you can't change it.
You can't even change it.
Like, it might be okay against, like, I was using against like small, medium targets, which are kind of hard to hit, but even still, it's the charging mechanic where you have to hold down left click. It takes like 2.5-3 seconds for a full charge, which you can let it go before that for a less powerful shot. But after those 2.5-3 seconds are over, it's going to automatically shoot no matter what. So if your pip doesn't line up exactly with where it needs to shoot in that half a second that it releases the shot, you're going to miss. So, I mean, against bigger targets, probably be better, but even still, like, there's a cooldown after the shot, and you can't just hold down left click while the cooldown is happening. You have to wait for it to be done and then left click, and then it'll start charging. You click before the cooldown's over, it just won't charge at all. So unless your eyes are constantly back and forth between your target and your cooldown on your shot, you have to time it just perfectly to, like, I don't know. It definitely needs to be changed, but
get good.
Yeah. Skill issue, right? Skill
That's
issue.
It.
Yeah.
That's
so
it.
But I think we've talked 323 enough, unless you got one last comment about it.
So we've not done a ton of different missions. The only other thing that immediately comes to mind, it goes back to an AI issue. So we've gone out to hunt Copian a couple times. That's the new space dog or space wolf, whatever, space K9. And I'll say this: I love that we have wildlife in the game, starting to come into the game. Currently, it's just the Copian, and then the what's the others, like the Maroc or something like that. It's the flying wildlife, but both have really cool designs. But the issue with the Copian and the Copian missions is brain dead AI. So you find some on a planet side, you say you've got your extermination mission where you got to exterminate 15 of them or whatever. Right now it's shooting fish in a barrel. They'll look at you, they'll growl. They're not engaging in combat. They're not trying to take you down. They're not running away from you. They're just standing there looking at you and growling.
Yeah, which
so fun.
That's pretty much what I expected with first implementation of creatures into the game. It's, until server meshing comes in, I didn't expect any AI to be functioning at
It is curious though, because pirates will, even if they're a little brain dead, they'll still largely somewhat engage with you.
Yeah.
The NPC ships, combat ships, enemy ships will engage with you. So I wonder what's actually broken with the wildlife AI. Like, what's the technical difference there preventing them from engaging in combat with you? Again, I'm not a programmer, so I don't have the first clue, but I would love for their, somebody knows, somebody out there knows to get some sort of commentary on that.
I'm sure they'll get around to it.
Yeah. It's just, again, it's that old Star Citizen thing of like, oh, this really cool new thing's coming in, and it's not really working right now.
Yep.
So, but again, I'm sure over the course of 323, that'll get patched up and fixed, at least to some extent. I will say, I forget who posted the clip, but I did see on Twitter where somebody was fist fighting with the Copian, and it did start to fight back. So maybe it's just luck of the draw with what server you're on, whether or not you're going to get that AI functionality. But we've run into those things a few different times between sort of 323.0's last stage of PTU. We found some there when we were checking out some distribution center stuff. And then again on the live servers after it went live, and they were brain dead each and every time. So,
yep.
Oh, should we talk DCs a little bit?
We can. I haven't really, I did one mission there for an investigation, and kind of flew around and checked out the outside a little bit. But other than that, I haven't really dove into distribution centers a whole lot. I've watched other people play them pretty significantly, which, if you get some AI that are halfway working and get one of the combat missions, I was watching Berks and Zero State do one last night, and it looked pretty intense. They had a lot of NPCs, all over them, moving around, getting angles on them and stuff. So it looks like if you get a decent working server and missions that'll actually spawn NPCs, they're actually pretty fun. So if not today, over the weekend or sometime soon, I definitely want to dive into some more distribution center missions and check them out a little bit more so we can maybe give some more context to them. But overall, they look great. The missions look fun when they work, so I'm mostly happy with them.
Yeah, I really the only thing I have to contribute to the distribution center talk is just the aesthetics and the scale of the centers. Because I've not done any actual DC missions, but I have poked around the DCs, and we started to talk about them first when they were announced and shown off a bit in video footage. And one of the things, like, what sort of scale are these actually? Because some of the shots they were showing, you couldn't quite get a feel for them. Man, they're big. They're really impressive.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I've kind of toured around a distribution center and was thoroughly impressed the size of them. For so long, the really the only FPS stuff we had in a structure on the ground was the bunkers, and then they gave us outposts later on, and some of the scales of some of the outposts are really cool too. But the distribution center is massive. So cool. So cool. And we don't even still have the entirety of distribution centers, right? There's still like a whole underground component that we're going to get at some point in the future, which will really blow up the scale of those things. But so far, thumbs up on the design of those things. I really like the distribution centers from what I've experienced so far.
For sure.
So yeah, it's nice to, always nice to have a new variety of locations enter the game, especially when you've been playing it for a while and you've been going to the same locations over and over. It's nice having a new spot to check out, and there's a good number of distribution centers in the game. It's not just 2 or 3 of them. There's, I don't know the exact number, but
I think it was like 13.
13?
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. So awesome stuff there.
Oh yeah.
That's about it. I think you have on 323. One tag just to put in one more hit on Arena Commander right now. I keep 30King. I've 30K'd on PTU, I've 30K'd on 323.0, and I've 30K'd on 323.0 or 0.1.
Just in Arena Commander though, right?
In Arena Commander. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I haven't,
not a ton, but it does happen.
I haven't had a 30K or like a recovery happen to me on PU servers yet for the 321 or 323, I'm sorry, cycle. So I mean, hopefully 30Ks and stuff are fairly rare on the PU right now, and even if they are, we have that new replication layer recovery. So
yeah,
it's weird it's happening so often in Arena Commander, but yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons I don't touch Arena Commander a whole lot right now. So
fair enough. Oh, and I checked my handy dandy notes here. Last thing that I have for 323, flying around the Gladius, the new sound update for that thing. Those engines sound amazing. Yep. So cheers to the sound design team for their work on the Gladius, and I'm looking forward to more ship sounds being updated as time goes on, because if the Gladius, I don't know if any others got updated sounds with this patch or not, or if it was just Gladius, but the Gladius is the only one that I've experienced the updates with. If that's any indication of the sound design direction they're going to be going in with ships, thumbs up.
Yeah, I think they did mention, and I don't know if it's the ISC or Star Citizen Live or something, but they've started going back through some of the ships and updating the sound on them and everything. So pretty good so far. On them.
Absolutely. So next up,
what
we want to tackle.
Well, we're about I didn't expect us to talk 323 so much. So we're about an hour in right now. So we might push 4.0 stuff off into another episode.
Yeah, that'd be good for next week.
Yeah, because we got some Invictus stuff we want to talk about here, and some changes coming up.
Yeah. Also, quick shout out. Speaking of Invictus, one of our latest CommLink alerts, there's been a lot here lately because CIG's been publishing a good bit. But the whole manufacturer schedule for the entire event has been posted to the Star Citizen website. And of course, we've got a CommLink alert up on the YouTube and the Spotify feeds for anybody that would like to take a listen at what all the different days are scheduled for, different manufacturers. So just want to give that a quick little plug.
It's broken down by days. We have chapters in the video if you want to skip to different days, and Stubb reads out every ship for every day and their descriptions for any new players who might be coming in not knowing what ships do what. So check it out if you want to listen instead of read it.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so Invictus.
I jumped in yesterday. I found
Looked out that credit card.
Oh yeah, I did actually. Because we can go ahead and talk about the NERSA first here.
Okay.
So I won a 100i game package from Space Tomato a little while back, and I don't really have any use for a 100i in my fleet. Can't melt it or anything due to the nature of the giveaway package. So for the little $10, I upgraded my 100i to the new Medevac. But yeah, the new Ursa Medevac, community, I believe, is calling it the NERSA.
Yeah.
Is the new Ursa variant that's medical. It has a med bay in it, and with it, for anybody who hasn't heard yet, all med bays can respawn you now.
Yes.
So-
It seems to be balanced to like the tier in the med bed. Somehow another, I forget the specifics, but there's like a distance that each med bed can respawn you from, but they are all capable of regen.
So, yeah, I've heard various takes and concerns about changing the respawn mechanics due to the whole death of a spaceman that's always been talked about. And yesterday on Star Citizen Live, Jared answered a question. They said, did you make the changes for respawn just to sell more medevacs? And whether you believe him or not, he was like, no, they've been planning this change for a while. The team that was previously working on this kind of stuff moved over to Squadron 42 not long after the last medical change, where it made it where you couldn't respawn on these mobile med bays. And he said they've wanted to change it back for a while, but now they're back on the PU. They finally got around to it. And it just kind of coincidentally happened at the same time the medevac was coming out.
I believe that. I do.
Yeah. So I think the big concern with a lot of people is, death of a spaceman. Death is supposed to be kind of important. You want to avoid it as much as possible. And people are thinking like, oh, I'm just, now death doesn't really matter. Everybody's just going to take a mobile spawn base with them everywhere and be able to infinitely respawn and lead to all these issues, which I'm not too concerned about, but I don't know if you've watched the commercial for the medevac.
I have.
Okay.
I have. I saw Astropub put out a tweet criticizing it a bit.
Yeah. So in classic CIG form, the marketing team released a commercial for the medevac, and one of the lines in there is, I've died 1,000 times. I'll die another 1,000 times more, or whatever. And it's like a solo player, like taking out enemies at like an outpost or whatever, and he keeps dying and rezzing in the medevac, which led some people to believe like, oh, I'm just going to be able to infinitely respawn in my medevac and cheese whatever mission I want to solo, which for right now might be the case. We're still early on in this, and there's not many implications to respawning other than you don't get your gear back, right? Your gear's still in your old body. So unless you have backup gear ready to go in your medevac or whatever vehicle is close by, you're not even going to have gear to get back to your old body.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one little little balance thing there, but
yeah, it's not like you're respawning back in with your full armor and all your weapons and all that.
Right. So I think that's a good for now, we have a ton of bugs that will just randomly kill you. Desync, NPCs shooting through walls, just, shit like that. So while the game's still in this buggy ass state where you can half the time complete shit, why not have an easy respawn to get people back into doing shit instead of spending 30 minutes getting back to where you were,
Yeah.
I don't mind that. I'm okay with that. But I do believe they need to one, make the differences a little bit more between the tier 3 and tier 1s. And there needs to be more what's the word I'm looking for? Downsides to reviving in a med bay, right? Which I'm sure they're going to implement at some point, but for right now, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, no. And so I'm engaged in a little bit of conversation with Astropub and Space Tomato on Twitter about this. And so I'll just read real quick. There was a post from Zach, CIG, who said, it's not ship cell related, came from a discussion with the player experience guys. I spoke to Chris Pari, the designer who's been here since the company started, and this was the plan for a long time. It just never got actioned. The whole thing about dying and it being easy to do won't be, I think, eventually because of the death of a spaceman. Inventory changes as well coming up. It wasn't something that I was involved in, but I do personally love it. So Astropub shared that, and he said, basically, there's statements by the devs that it is an intended change and remains permanent rather than a sales gimmick. Space Tomato then went in with, it does sound temporary until death is harder, though, ? And then I came in and said, I'm reading the comment more as death of a spaceman making death itself harder, as in harsher penalties, but that the regen option from beds itself won't go away. It'll just be more limited in functionality, as in you won't be able to respawn from the same bed on the same character 100 times, because at X number of deaths, you'll have to start a new character. I could be completely off base, though. Things are still just too vague for someone to know at the moment. So, but I think people need to keep that in mind, right? When Death of the Spaceman is implemented in the game, you can only die so many times, or regen so many times before back to the start for you, right?
Yep.
So will it be a little gamey right now? Sure. But to your point, with how easy it is to die to the random in the game right now, to things that aren't intended, this update will make somebody like me that hates to go back to a station or to a landing zone and get all your stuff together again, get to your ship again, get back out to the location we were at. Like if it's been a session that we've been playing for a couple hours or a few hours and it's getting late at night, this update is something that will make somebody like me go from, I think I'm just going to call it a night because I really don't feel like going through this whole process again, to, oh, well, I can just respawn in the ship and then go back out and collect my gear. Or maybe I've got some extra gear on the ship ready to go in the case of a regen. It'll keep me in the game longer instead of just getting frustrated with it and going to play something else or, go to bed. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So I welcome it. I think eventually, right, it also makes sense that there will be some sort of resource consumption for the regen.
Yep.
So whether that's, we've got whatever it's called, but we've got the med guns. I forget the actual stuff that goes in the med gun, but whatever the healing liquid is that's fueling the healing beams. Maybe it's something similar like that for your med bed, where you've got to make sure whatever resource is being consumed is still there, because once maybe that resource depletes, now all of a sudden you can't just keep continually regenning. It is back to whatever your last respawn location was at a station or a landing zone, what have you. So I think that'll balance it out as well when there's an actual resource cost to using the regen bed and it's not just virtually unlimited.
Yeah, there's a ton of ways they can balance it. One, like you said, a regen cost to it, like tier 3s get 2 to 3 respawns. Tier 2s get 5 to 8, and so on and so forth. And then you have to restock the medical goo or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And after that, you can respawn some more. So that's one way to do it. They could make that, a craftable, highly sought after commodity. It could be expensive, 100K per respawn, something like that. So make it where just not everybody's, respawning easily every time. And, they kind of already are making it where tier 3, you have to be closer, tier 2, a little further, tier 1, further away than that. So like, if they have like a Apollo medevac or a Carrick or something with a really good med bay, maybe you can spawn like back up in orbit. Maybe it'll be that far away. And then like a Cuddy Red, maybe planet side, and then maybe a Ursa, like, 50 kilometers, something like that. That's another way to balance it. And then I think they do need to make it where, depending on the tier of the bed, it doesn't just spawn you totally fresh body. So like if you're in a tier 3 bed and you respawn in it, but you have a tier 2 injury, you still have that tier 2 injury, and it requires a tier 2 bed to fix that.
Yeah.
So you're not just waking up. So you're not like, oh, well, I've got a tier 3 bed. I've got 2 tier 2s and a tier 1 head injury. I need a fresh body. You just backspace and fresh body. But I think that needs to change to where if you're in a tier 3 bed, you still retain those higher injuries, which will require, that kind of gives a reason for maybe medical professionals to, tag along, have a better bed, or, you're out there and you're like, you got some tier 1 injuries, you can't fix them in your tier 3. So you call some medics to come fix you up or something. You have to go back to a hospital. So it's not just completely killing the medical gameplay or reasons to go to hospitals or reasons to have that medical professional with you or whatever. So
right.
Yeah, there's a ton of ways they can balance this to make it where it's not just die respawn 1,000 times, and whatever crazy scenario people are thinking in their head where they're like, orgs are just, org versus org, somebody's trying to take a base, they're just going to keep respawning infinitely outside my base and I'm gonna have to fight them off, or whatever the scenario is in your head. I don't think that's going to happen, because I think they're going to balance this to where death of a spaceman still matters, because Chris has always talked about death of a spaceman. And I do think we are due for a new death of a spaceman article, kind of telling us what their ideas are. Like if what we just talked about is kind of lining up with what they're thinking, or maybe when you die repeatedly, you lose some of your skill attributes that you might gain eventually, or they've talked about that in the past before. So yeah, tons of ways they could balance it that I'm not worried about it. And shit, I'm glad I can go do a bunker or a distribution center now. And if I trip down some stairs and die, I don't got to spend 30 minutes coming back to finish the mission. So I got the medical Ursa. I'm glad it's there. I'm glad with the medical changes. They just need to keep up with the balancing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they will. Just another one of those things where we'll see how it plays out over time. But again, to your point, it's not going to be to where you can just endlessly regen 5,000 times and never have to. It's not going to be that.
Yeah. The marketing video is, CIG marketing's always been pretty, like, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but just they kind of show some things that aren't actually true in game sometimes. So I don't think that medevac commercial should be too big of an alarm as what's going to happen.
Nope, I don't think so. So yeah, those big med bay updates are in, though. Like, that functionality is in currently on the live servers in 3.23.1. So if you have a ship with a med bay, give it a rip, test it out, see how it works for you.
Yep. Other Invictus news, the Polaris is on the show floor.
Yeah, and she thick.
Yeah, it looks really nice. I went and walked around it for a little while last night, just checking it out in first person. It's pretty big, and it looks pretty good. And for anybody who didn't catch Star Citizen Live this past week, they confirmed Polaris is coming out with IAE this year.
So that'll be in November.
Yep. So you can go check out the exterior of it right now and kind of walk around it. I think they're doing a flyby with the fleet of it around the different ports and everything if you want to see it flying. But it's there. It looks good. And I can't wait to see people flying it around in the verse.
And also, if you want to get that pledge package, they've advertised. Now's basically your last chance to get your Polaris pledge for the low price of 750 American dollars before it goes up. So
yeah,
you're in the market for one. Now's the best price you're going to get it at.
That's true.
Should I, you think maybe I should swap out my Merchant Man for a Polaris, and then eventually as the Merchant Man gets closer to release, maybe swap back if I choose to?
Maybe.
I feel like a Polaris would be really cool to have at the moment, and it just seems like that Merchant Man is not coming anytime soon.
Well, I think the problem with that would be, so you bought the Merchant Man a while back, so I think you got it at a pretty discounted price. So if you were to upgrade it to the Polaris, and then its price goes up, and then when the Merchant Man comes out, if its price is not more than the Polaris, you would have to melt your package, right?
Right.
And get back the original price for it instead of being able to CC you up to the Merchant Man for the price difference, right?
Yeah.
I'm not good with playing the CCU chains or saving money on the store, so somebody else might be better to talk about that. But yeah, that could be an option. But
if you're a CCU person listening, please give me some advice in the comments on how I should strategize that, because I would like to have a Polaris, but ultimately it'll probably just be a ship I buy in game if it doesn't make sense to melt the Merchant Man package, knowing that at some point I'm going to want to get that Merchant Man package back once it's closer to release.
Which, I mean, who knows if 4.0 actually comes out in Q3 before IAE when the Polaris is scheduled to come out, but will we have anything to do with the Polaris when it comes out? Like it'll be cool to look at and fly around, but what are you going to be doing with it? Bunker missions, some HRTs,
right?
So, I mean, it's definitely a cool ship. It's going to be fun for orgs and stuff to do shit in, but then again, are there actually going to be missions and stuff to support?
What better functionality than just to be able to flex on people at a ship meet?
I mean, if that's what you're going for, yeah, that would definitely be a flex.
Yeah, no, I'm good on that. But very cool looking ship for sure. And I think you mentioned last night we were on Discord, they've got like a team of like 8 or so devs working on the interior of the ship, getting that thing ready for its eventual release later this year.
Yeah, and it's who knows what we'll be doing in game eventually, but the Polaris is definitely a cool ship, but I don't know if it's going to be the capital ship I go for. Maybe, I mean, if depending on, who knows what, if we start an org, join an org, whatever, it might be a good one to have in the fleet for, combat oriented stuff, but I don't think it'll be like my main go-to ship for doing org stuff, because I'd probably be more into the base building or being a traveling merchant, something like that. I don't know. Combat's fun every now and again, but it's not the in-game Star Citizen for me, I guess.
Yeah. Right on. Anything else before we start to wrap this one up?
Yeah. The Saber Raven Firebird.
Yes.
Is coming out too. I don't think it's on the show floor right now. I forget what day that is, but that's releasing with Invictus. It's basically the missile boat version of the Saber. There's a whole ISC on it. It looks really good. They brought the Saber up to gold standard. It looks really good. And other than that and the free fly going on, if you're a new player, get in there, check it out.
There's the tally stuff as well.
Yeah,
Retaliator.
the Retaliator modularity. I forgot about that. It's got its modularity now, so I don't own in tally, so I don't know how that's going, but modularity is working, so hopefully more ships that have modularity means that's coming soon.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the Galaxy. I don't think they're working on it yet. But I keep referencing the Star Citizen Live from yesterday about the vehicles and stuff, but they talked about pretty much everything they have in production right now, barring like the surprise straight to flyable ships that they'll surprise us with every now and again. And I don't think the Galaxy or anything like that's in production. They mentioned, I don't think I have it here in my notes. They did mention like a list of ships they have coming up that, all those ones we saw from CitizenCon. They talked about those coming up. And Jared even dropped a little teaser of a new Drake concept ship coming with DefenseCon.
The Cutlass Mark II.
Yeah, maybe. There was that. I don't like talking about leaks on here a whole lot, but there's rumors of a Fatapillar, like a beefed up, like fat caterpillar. Could be that. I'm hoping for maybe like a medium-sized salvage ship.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Because we don't really have any in between right now, right? We've got the Vulture, which is a smaller ship, and then we've got the Reclaimer, which is a big ship. There's not really a middle ground currently.
Yep. So a medium-sized salvage would be nice. Yeah, other than that, I don't really know what it could be. But it's obviously going to be a concept and not straight to flyable. So it's still going to be a year, 2 years before whatever we see the concept is actually in game.
Yeah.
But some little surprise coming up on Drake DefenseCon Day for all Drake enjoyers. And yeah, get in there and check out that Idris. I walked around in it some yesterday, and it's really cool to finally see the full interior, go to the hangar. There's NPCs walking around inside, checking out the bridge with the T-posing pilot, all that good stuff. It's definitely worth checking out if you have the time.
Also, a quick little shout out to the Mirai Pulse being in game now too. So
yep.
another ground vehicle. It's a Gravlev bike, and the Pulse itself has a bespoke Gatling weapon attached to it. I think it's size 2, which is pretty cool. And then the LX is more like the racing variant. But they put out a Q&A on the website. That's another CommLink alert to go check out that went up recently. It's only like 4 minutes or so long, so it's a pretty quick one. But I think it looks pretty cool. I don't have my hands on one yet, but I do actually want to try that thing out.
Yeah. I'm not sure what day Mirai is. I don't remember. I have to go back and watch our schedule alert. But yeah, I do want to rent one of those and check it out, whatever day it's up. But yeah, manufacturer schedule alert is up. Mirai Pulse Q&A is up. We're going to do the NERSA Q&A here today or tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. And going to have a lot of links down below in this episode, but I'll throw it down below on top of everything else we've mentioned. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So go check it out.
All right. We were ready to wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah. Stay tuned next week. I think we're going to talk 4.0 next week, since this one's already running about an hour and a half.
Yep.
For anybody who didn't hear, Q3 next year, 4.0 is scheduled. Lots of good features coming in with it. We'll dig into next week. So stay tuned and check that out.
Yeah. 4.0 Q3 2024. All right, so before we go into our final plugs, I want to share some listener comments from our previous episode 23. We'll run through these real quick. If you would like to have yours read on the next episode, leave some comments on your thoughts on, hey, what's currently going on with 323 on live servers. How have you been enjoying Invictus week so far? Have you checked out the Idris? What are your thoughts on that? Have you got your hands on the Mirai Pulse? How's that feeling for you? There's so much to discuss. But yeah, leave comments below. They might get read out loud on the next episode. But for this one, we've got Artech777 saying, if we don't get NPC crews, I'll be done with the game. Been a backer since 2014 too. Too much hassle to get people to run around a ship replacing relays. I hear people complain of being bored from just being gunners on Hammerhead. Of course, that was in reference to some of the engineering gameplay that's going to be coming online, and just the old promise that's been around for a while that eventually we will be able to hire NPC crews. As far as I know, that's still the plan, but we've got no sort of ETA on when that's actually going to be implemented in the game. But I get the sentiment there. At some point, we definitely do need to have NPC crews. Hey, sometimes you can't find random people to play with, or your buddies aren't online, whatever it is. And if you're running a multi-crew ship, somebody needs to fill those roles, right? So NPCs would definitely be nice.
I'm definitely good with NPC crews. There just needs to be some sort of balance there where, a single person isn't running a javelin or whatever.
Or if they are, it needs to be very expensive.
Yeah, very expensive and very time consuming to delegate all the tasks, what you want your NPCs to be doing and stuff. So yeah, I definitely think for, something like a Hercules size ship, definitely be able to have some NPC crew, doing trading and stuff, have an engineer board, whatever. But yeah, there definitely has to, whenever it comes along, there definitely has to be some balance there between wanting to have actual players versus crewing with NPCs. But we haven't heard news about it in a while, but hopefully that's still the plan.
Yep. Fingers crossed. Cyberg War posted, I've been raising some of the same concerns since 323 hit EPTU. Some of these new development choices are extremely immersion breaking and feel like a console game. So kind of going back to that whole like sim versus arcadey feel of the game. I suspect since Squadron 42 was created in a vacuum and many of the new devs grew up playing tablet and console games, these choices seem normal, but in a space sim PC game that is supposed to be cutting edge and trailblazing, they are glaring absurdities and facepalm worthy. I hope the ship can be righted. Cyberg not super hyped on some of the changes that have been introduced with 323. Assuming most of that's like in reference to master modes, maybe some of the FPS changes as well.
Yeah, I can understand that, but like we talked about at the beginning of the episode here, this is at the end of the day we're playing a game, and it has to be fun. So there's always that realism part they bring in, but also we're World War II dogfighting in space. So where do you draw that line?
Right. And again, Star Citizen continues to be a work in progress, right? They're going to continue to try to strike a good balance between sim and game, right?
Yeah. Let them cook. And, if 1.0 comes out and it's still, bad, if we're still having some of the issues we're seeing today, then we can pull out the pitchforks. But, as of right now, everything is subject to change.
Yep. And this next comment is in relation to a flub that I had on our previous issue pretty early on in the episode 23. I mistakenly remembered Squadron 42 being announced, and then Star Citizen at a later point in time, shortly thereafter, but I did misremember it as being separate announcements. So Jay Grizz said, so why is it that the Star Citizen Kickstarter that is still up with the last update in 2013 call it Star Citizen and not Squadron 42? It says something about Squadron 42, but is not called Squadron 42 Kickstarter and is only a minor part of of what is talked about on the Kickstarter. That was my bad. I conflated. I think it's essentially what had happened. I even responded with this in the comments of the previous episode. So it turns out they were announced simultaneously, but I think I conflated with the huge increase in scale that Star Citizen had at a later date, with that being the actual announcement of Star Citizen. I had that wrong.
Yeah.
Only human folks.
I think
Sorry.
maybe not a lot, but I think some people in the community, even some content creators, I've heard sort of the same thing. Like, yeah, it was originally Squadron 42, and then they made so much money they decided to add the persistent universe, which after going back and, I wasn't there when it happened. I've only been in this since like 2018. So going back and looking at it, it looks like they were both announced at the same time. So
yeah, I think a lot of us are just misremembering again that when funding was going really well and they floated the idea of greatly increasing the scope of Star Citizen, with that being the actual announcement, but
yeah,
not the case. They were announced simultaneously. Shakalaka Hickey 8 said they've injected a ton of fun into combat with master modes. It's only in the 1v1 area that things have regressed a bit. This is a multiplayer game though, and the fleet combat with a variety of ships, master modes is already a big step in the right direction of fun. Fair point.
Yeah, I haven't had we haven't really done any multi-crew ships with master modes yet, so that's another thing I would kind of like to try out and report back on was like crewing out a Redeemer or something with some decent turrets on it and trying some missions and see how that goes.
Absolutely. At Sozilla said, I'm shit at PvP. I also firmly believe that flight should be deep and very rewarding for highly skilled operators. Then, to balance it, you should be able to run away. I agree. I mean, that's been the sentiment I've continued to share with master modes is I'm happy that it's more accessible for people, but also I do want people that really want to dig into PvP to have the opportunity to, reach a higher skill ceiling than they're currently able to with master modes.
Yeah. And, Yogi has specifically stated that they don't feel happy with the way 1v1s and stuff work right now. So it's not like it's going to stay this way forever, folks. So don't panic.
And then final comment that we're going to be sharing on today's episode, Borkwitch posted, I don't see why jump point naming would be a no-go. I'm sure they'll enforce a review process so it's not totally ridiculous stuff, but it's absolutely feasible. And that was in reference to our last episode where we had mentioned at one point CIG stated that, people would be able to discover new jump points and be able to name them. And I kind of threw out a goofy name. It's like, do you really want somebody named Butthole Armpit to be able to name a jump point Butthole Armpit in the game? But Sport brings up a good point there that, hey, as long as they have a review process, CIG would still be able to give either the thumbs up or the thumbs down to the jump point name. And I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I think that
maybe we will see that.
Yeah, that could be a good solution, but exploration and jump point gameplay is like so far in the future and not even like talked about right now that who knows what the plan is anymore.
Yeah. And then finally, today, this episode is probably going to be a bit too late for anybody to check it out that isn't already aware of this event happening. But I'll be partaking in the First Science SC Battle Royale event they're calling Survival Island. Basically, it's going to be a bunch of different content creators all getting together in a Battle Royale type event that's also a charity event. And they send a little email. I'm sure they won't. I'm not going to read it word for word, but just so I make sure I get all the phrasing right. It says, one of our most popular events is called Survival Island. Think Star Citizen Battle Royale. Survivors are dropped off on a beach in flight suits and have to find loot boxes containing the essential gear to survive, defend, and ultimately eliminate the other survivors stranded on the island. We would like to invite you to attend a charity Survival Island event we will be hosting on May 18th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. During the event, attendees as well as for science members will be sharing donation links in stream chats and maybe even some videos afterwards. The nonprofit we have chosen for this event is the Best Friend Animal Society. They are a no-kill sanctuary that helps find forever homes for everything from cats to horses. So there's a Tiltify team, a website that facilitates events like these already set up, so all donations will go directly to the charity. So I'll be involved with that in my small part. Hopefully on the stream we can raise a little bit of money for the Best Friend Animal Society. But regardless, I'll be another boot on the ground trying to help add some excitement to the event.
Yeah, that seems like a really cool event, and I'm always happy to see animal sanctuaries getting a little notice as far as like charity events and stuff. A lot of the times I'm not, saying that other issues don't deserve charity events and shit, obviously. But being a big proponent, person that likes to talk about animal rights and factory farming and saving animals from those terrible situations. The people that I've been to a couple animal sanctuaries, and the people that run them literally put their heart and soul into helping those animals, usually for a very small profit. These are nonprofit organizations, and these people work really hard, really for not much gain, to take care of these animals and stuff. So if you're checking out the event later today after listening to this, or even if you missed the event after listening to this and still want to donate to that charity,
the Best Friend Animal Society.
I will.
Maybe we can put a link for that.
Yep, I'll include it in all the links below. So for anybody wanting to check out that charity or the event, I encourage you to do so.
Yeah, and just a quick little shout out to For Science in general. I've checked out a good bit of their content. Really good people over there, and fun, engaging stuff. I hope that at some point we'll be able to have some For Science people here on the show as well. So maybe like a retrospective of the Survival Island event would be kind of cool to do.
Yeah, that would be.
So anyway, I'll just put that out there, and I'll get in touch with them and try to make that happen. If they're down for it, we'll make it happen. If not, no big deal. But they're worth checking out all the same.
Oh yeah.
All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and roll our own plugs here. So this is it for episode 24 of the CommLink Podcast. Thanks, Silvius, for doing this. This was fun. It's good to be back in the saddle again.
Yep.
Had
Sorry,
a lot
everybody,
of fun with this.
For the 3-week downtime. Life happens and people get sick, and doing our best over here. But we'll try to get back on our regular schedule here as best as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't forget that the CommLink Podcast releases a new episode weekly, or most weeks at the very least, featuring discussions about Star Citizen and Squadron 42. The CommLink Podcast can be found on both YouTube and Spotify. So if you enjoyed this episode, if you're watching us on YouTube, like and subscribe to the channel for more. If you're listening or watching over on Spotify, as we now have video content on Spotify as well, make sure to hit that follow button so you get alerts when new episodes go out. And if you don't mind, leave us a little 5-star review. That'll help us with the Spotify algorithm over there. In addition to the podcast, be sure to also check out our Star Citizen and Squadron 42 reaction videos on our YouTube channel. You can follow CommLink on Twitter and Instagram. The username for both platforms is @CommLinkPod. We're still running that giveaway for a Drake Cutter Rambler with lifetime insurance, so be sure to check out that Twitter page @CommLinkPod for more details pinned at the top. We're getting pretty close to hitting our goal of 100 followers, but you still got some time to get in if you have not already. And then, of course, we also have those CommLink alerts on both YouTube and Spotify as well, where we read major articles published from Cloud Imperium Games regarding both Star Citizen and Squadron 42. It's anything from monthly reports to ship Q&As. So roadmap roundups as well. So if you don't have the time to read through all that stuff yourself, and you would like to listen along during a drive to work or at the gym or while you're playing the game, or for whatever reason, if you would just rather hear it than read it, we got you covered. So I think that's it.
That's it.
Heck of an episode.
Yeah, that was a thick one for all of you been missing the podcast here recently.
We're back. And we'll be back again next week to talk. I'm sure we'll talk some more 323, and as well we'll get a deeper look at some of those 4.0 announcements that were made for Q3 of this year.
Oh yeah.
So in the meantime, thanks for tuning in as always, everybody. Stay safe and be well. We'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.